Good morning. Welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Don McArthur here with Dylan Kristy and our special guest, Windsor Mayor Eddie Francis.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Eddie. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
We can say their name without bursting into flames. We just heard you on AM 800 talking about who you're going to endorse in this election, so lay it on us.
You know, as I've said throughout the campaign, I was going to take the time to really get to know the candidates, get to know their platforms, and if the candidates wanted, I was going to come out and provide my support. On the understanding, though, all I'm doing is providing my support. People have to decide for themselves who they're going to vote for. With regards to my position, I just want people to be the best informed and the most informed as they can be as they go in to check that ballot box. And we've seen it at the federal level with the federal ministers endorsing mayoral candidates in Toronto. We've seen it in Mississauga recently with Mayor McCallion coming out and endorsing the candidate for mayor. So with regards to the endorsements, I've talked to most councillors. Those that wanted my endorsement have called me, those council candidates. With regards to the mayor's race, I'm going to be supporting Drew Dilkins. You know, I really took time to allow things to develop, to get to know them, and get to know the candidates, what they're offering, what their platforms were, and what their plans were. With respect to Drew, obviously Drew's been the incumbent. He's been part of the team for the last 8 years. That's in his favor. He's worked hard with us to turn the city around and to reposition. And based on what he's come out with, it's building on that success. You know, the other two candidates, the other two leading candidates by I guess, popular decision, Larry Horowitz and John Milson. I think Larry ran a very effective campaign the first half of the rollout of the campaign. I think the debate was an opportunity for Larry to really come out and take it to the next level at the chamber debate. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And I think that really exposed a weakness in Larry's campaign, that he doesn't have the plan or the platform yet at the mayoral level. John Milson is a very nice guy. I've known John. I like John. He's a very likable and affable individual. He, a previous mayor, I respect that. But his campaign has focused on, and using their words, unraveling certain decisions made by the previous council, which causes me concern. His campaign has yet to provide a detailed plan in terms of what they're going to do for the city. I've heard what they don't like what we've done for the city, but I haven't heard what they're going to do for the city. For all those reasons, I think you know, my support for Drew is based on, and pretty obvious, on his desire to continue to stay the course. And I think that we need to stay the course. There are a number of things that we've started that we're not done yet. We need to stay the course in terms of developing and diversifying our economy, attracting more jobs, making the city more affordable. I don't think we're there yet. I think we've got another 2 to 3 years before we can really lay claim to the fact that we are the most affordable city in Ontario. And obviously building on the amenities and the projects that we've started, whether the libraries, the fire halls, or some of the other initiatives that we've started. I don't want to see us to take a step back. And concerning thing from the Milson campaign is the fact that they've used the term that they want to unravel. And that's very concerning to me. So for those reasons, I'll be supporting Dilkins in the mayor's race. As it relates to the council races, you know, some of the incumbents have approached me, and I'll probably have more to say about the council races later during the week on this show. Yeah, yes, you heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it here first on Trail Talk. That's right.
On the incumbents, Joanne Gignac, I think, has been a steady hand at the wheel, and I think Joanne is going to be playing a very more significant, prominent role on council. That's the type of experience you need, especially with the changeover on council, and I think Joanne can bring that effective leadership. And another person is Ed Sleeman. Ed Sleeman has been a very hard-working councillor. Some of the things that Ed does for his constituents you never hear about or you never read about.
Yeah, well, there's some young up-and-comers in that ward, some hungry, young, you know, fresh faces.
And that's not usually in the spotlight, too, when it comes to a lot of the...
Ed doesn't seek the spotlight. He doesn't... He doesn't seek out the media. He won't pick up the phone and call a reporter and say, by the way. He won't, you know, after a council meeting, hover around the reporters to get his picture in the paper or to get a clip on the radio or on TV. But he does the work, and he's been very effective for his constituents. When people flooded in his ward, he'd take his own pickup truck and he'd take the stuff to the dump. And I said to him, I remember pulling him one side, I said, Ed, you can't do that. I go, he goes, but no, there's nobody there to help them. And I said, well, I understand that, Ed, but if you do it for one, you're setting an expectation you're going to do it for. So he's loading up people's stuff. He's delivered on infrastructure dollars for his ward. He knows it. His heart's in the right place. And, you know, I've shared this with others. Ed is the type of individual that every council needs an Ed Sleeman because his heart is in the right place. He approaches things from a very genuine perspective, wanting to get the job done for the right reason. And then in Ward 1, my brother, Fred Francis, who's running, not just because he's my brother, because obviously I have an option of not saying anything. And I could have said, I'm staying out, but...
Make for an awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I didn't spend Thanksgiving with him. I spent it with the other brother, so I'm good. He's been around. He understands. He's able to hit the ground running. But he really took this election very serious, sat down, looked at the different ideas. He's come out with real ideas and real plans. Other candidates have come up, with postcards, with experience, and the typical type of campaigns. He's really thought out. He's talked to the different constituents in the ward. Whether it's traffic calming, whether it's the ditch quality of life, or whether it's flooding. He's come up with detailed plans in terms of how he's going to tackle the job. And I think he's young. He brings a new energy, new perspective, and I think he's prepared to do the job.
I should just say, Daniel Ablisser was here last week. He's running against your brother in Ward 1. He's got a very detailed, platform as well.
Daniel does, and that's Daniel. I got a chance to see Daniel during the South Windsor Arena debate, and you're right. Fred and Daniel are probably one of the two individuals in that ward that have issued a detailed platform. And but I saw him during the debate, and he's a lawyer in town, and so I think Ward 1's going to have a good choice, and we'll hope the constituents will make the decision how they see fit.
That's exciting stuff. Now you say, for more or less people care about what your endorsements are, but you have been, even just as mayor, involved in just immersed in local politics. So there is a lot of weight that does come with your endorsements. Now, are you afraid sometimes, because a lot of the haters there are kind of the most outspoken, that may actually work against some of the people you're endorsing?
Well, I'm not coming out and endorsing people without them coming to me and asking for my endorsement. So the individuals that have come to me, and some of these individuals I've never met before. So I'm taking the time, and especially the council candidates, to understand who they are, what they represent. And the reason they're approaching me is because, and I've asked them this, they're hearing on the doorstep, people are very happy, and people, believe very strongly that the city's on the right track. So by them approaching me, they are making the determination that my support would be of value to them. And I understand that, and that's for them to decide. With regards to the vocal minority, that's who they are. I can tell you exactly this. Same thing the vocal minority said this election. They said the last two elections, and if we were to believe them, right, then I would have never been elected the second time, nor would I have been elected the third time. Right? And the councillors, you would have seen a change over on councillors with the incumbents. People are very pleased with what we've achieved at the city. People believe that we are on the right track. And because of that, I believe that council candidates are knocking on doors, and they're hearing directly from their constituents that people are very supportive of it. And listen, we're in the business of being connected to the people every single day. So I don't live in a bubble. I don't, isolate myself in the second floor of City Hall. I'm out there. I'm in the community. I'm talking to people. People hear, people let us know, and we hear from them whether they're happy with things or they're not happy with things, whether it's through emails, through calls to you guys, letters to the editor. We are very connected to people these days, and more connected than in the past. And as a result, we are able to better understand where people's feelings are and what they're feeling on a particular day on a particular issue. So from that perspective, we've been very responsive to the residents of the city of Windsor. And what's, the haters, as you call them, they'll always be haters. There's nothing you're going to do to change that. That's all they know, and that's all they do.
Haters gonna hate. Yeah.
That's it. Exactly. That's my next shirt.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the chamber debate, Drew sort of dropped the ball. He had a great debate, but he sort of dropped the ball when it came to the Auditor General. He said we have an Auditor General. He got called out by the Star's editorial board. That was uncomfortable, and he also got called out today, in a sense, by OC or by Helga, I guess, in the paper. A little fact check: we don't have an Auditor General. We have PricewaterhouseCoopers, an external firm that does internal audits. So this is going to be a question asked today: should we have an Auditor General? I think you voted that we shouldn't, if I'm correct.
Here's the thing: we have PricewaterhouseCoopers that provides the same function that an Auditor General would provide.
But they can't subpoena and question people under oath. They don't have unfettered access to records and databases and that sort of thing.
Well, I think they have unfettered access. But I was questioned to ask, if they came forward and said, we need this, our administration is going to give it to them.
Exactly, but the Auditor General doesn't have to ask.
But let me just deal with the issue of subpoenas, and then we can get back to the other point. I was asked this by one of your colleagues last week. In the issue of subpoenas, you're usually 99.9% of the time talking about a criminal matter, right? That's an assumption on my part.
Sure.
And if it's a criminal matter, police are going to be involved. And if police are going to be involved, you're not going to wait for the Auditor General to subpoena, because you're going to have the investigative powers of the police, whether it's the Windsor Police, the OPP, the RCMP, and the Crown Attorney's Office, that have all those powers. Okay. Secondly, we have the most professional administration there is. And our administration, whether it's Helga, OC, or other members of our administration, are all professionals with professional designations that have rules and ethics and conduct that they have to follow. Thirdly, let's back up and let's not change. If the conversation is we should have one, that's fine.
Okay.
I just want to part that. But I don't want to change history for a second. And I'm being very careful of what I say because I know that
I don't want to talk about the specific
lawyers
individual.
and the guys will, right.
Yeah.
If you go back and you read the Windsor Star and you read the history on this, we had an Auditor General's office with someone performing the function of Auditor General. The reports were always outsourced because when Windsor Star editorial, Windsor Star columns, rightly so, criticized how long it was taking to get an audit done, whether it was the arena, whether it was the 400 building. You recall, it took forever. To the point where they had to outsource the audit, right, to an outside firm, whether it was Price Waterhouse, Deloitte, or KPMG, right? Whatever the firm, they outsourced the audits, and the audits came back. Council then made a decision that we are going to, outsource this audit. Since you're outsourcing anyways, it's cheaper, and we can get more audits done anyways, let's outsource it. So council made that determination that we're going to outsource the audit. Then they hired an individual on the basis that we are going to outsource the audit to oversee that. That individual took a different tact and different approach, and then we went and we just outsourced it. So if the concern is we want an audit function, we want to be able to do as much as possible, right, to audit things, then history shows that a professional firm with many individuals, as opposed to a dedicated office with two, can get more audits done quicker, can get them done cheaper, and allows you to get into more areas.
Yeah, but PricewaterhouseCoopers doesn't have powers enshrined in the Municipal Act. The Office of an Auditor General does. We don't want PricewaterhouseCoopers if you want an Auditor General. You want Sheila Fraser.
But give me an example of what PricewaterhouseCoopers can't do that an Auditor General, a specific example, in terms of what they're going to find, because PricewaterhouseCoopers...
Well, I don't know what they're going to find, but it's more what they're going to go looking for.
No, but therein lies the difference. Therein lies the difference. They are going to go looking for the same thing. Whether you're an Auditor General or PricewaterhouseCoopers, the way you approach an audit of a corporation is you do a risk assessment, right? And that risk assessment determines the areas that are vulnerable in a corporation that need to be really dug into.
Sure.
Okay? So the function is the same. The function is
the same. Yeah, but the optics are very, very different.
Optics are different. I agree with you. But if we're talking about function...
it looks like PricewaterhouseCoopers or whichever, we're not bad-mouthing them, but whatever external auditing firm you're using, it looks like they're serving at your beck and call and can be turfed at your beck and call.
But if we're talking about substance, I agree with you. Optics are different. But if we're talking about substance and function in terms of being able to look and being able to dig up things and find areas of risk, they do the same thing. And like I said, the arena and the 400 audit are two examples where we had our own department that took forever to do it, and you guys criticized us and criticized them.
I wrote
like we were hiding them. I remember them. They're still tattooed in my mind, right? But the bottom line is, because I wanted to get involved back then, but I couldn't get involved. But the bottom line is, you're getting more through Pricewater, through a professional firm like you were. Now, the optics are very different. I agree with you there. However, Amherstburg didn't have an Auditor General. They called in the OPP and they got to the bottom of things, right? So it's an issue of whether or not there's going to be, criminal or not. MFP, there was no Auditor General, right?
Right.
But we got to the bottom of things. And these days, when there are issues, you're going to hear about it. The Windsor Public Library is another good example, right? There was no Auditor General there, right? But we got to the bottom of things because these days when there are real issues, and if those real issues do exist, you're going to hear about it from employees. You're going to hear about it from whistleblowers before you hear about it from anyone else. And in our case, we had the opportunity for whistleblowers to come forward and all that. But with regards to PwC, I agree with you. Optics are very different, but the substance and the function are the same.
Okay. Well, the other part of Doug Schmidt's article today is about taxes. And this must drive you crazy because this is probably one that you like to articulate as one of your signature achievements is 6 consecutive tax freezes. It's continually being called into question in the comments section. On the reference to it on your Wikipedia page actually has a footnote that says dubious.
Well, we know how Wikipedia.
Well, I know it could have been John Milson in his slippers last night. Doing
I can tell you exactly who it was.
Well, exactly, but I mean, but the perception is out there that there's some jiggery pokery going on. So I'd like you to address this because the tax rate has gone up.
The perception out there is not that there has been jiggery gone on. The perception that's being created by the Dalton McGuinty Liberals that are running John Milson's campaign is exactly that, because that's all they know how to do. That's all they want you to believe. They've got nothing else to attack us on, but they're saying that, you know what, taxes have gone up. The fact of the matter is people at home get their tax bill. And I love the fact that we're now redefining how we just, report taxes. Tecumseh, Amherstburg, LaSalle, the County of Essex, Mississauga, London, Toronto, everybody's on the tax bill. Now John Milson's running a campaign. It's no longer the tax bill. Right? Now the Dalton McGuinty Liberals are running John's campaign. We're no longer going to look at the tax bill. We're going to look at the tax rate. The bottom line is people at home...
Dave Cook wasn't supporting Dalton McGuinty. He's an NDP MPP from way back when, and he said the tax rate is the issue.
With respect, Dave Cook is a whole other...
And he's with Milson.
Dave Cook is a whole other show. Okay? The fact of the matter is he's supporting Milson, and we'll talk about a whole other show later. But with respect to the tax bill, people get their tax bills at home, Don. People know that we've held the line. The city's collecting less money today than we were several years ago. The tax bills, we've held the line. We continue to hold the line. There's no other way to describe or explain how we went from the highest tax rate in the province to below average. And the fact of the matter is, for 3 terms now, and last term we were reelected, and people know the difference. But I love it because in Tecumseh, LaSalle, and Amherstburg, their tax bills go up, right? Nobody talks about tax rates, but
the tax rate has gone up.
The mill rate changes as a result of assessment. We had this conversation.
Well, no, exactly. But this is what I'm saying, because I do not dispute by any measure. You guys have done remarkable work holding the line on spending. I mean, you have. Like, wages go up, gas prices go up, everything goes up, inflation goes up. We've held the line. But you're drawing the same amount of money from a smaller assessment base and a smaller number of people because people fled out to Calgary. The only way you can get the same amount of money is by hitting those people just a little bit harder by raising the tax rate.
If your assessment has stayed within the average range, your taxes have either stayed the same or gone down. If your assessment has gone up below average, yes, because it's a redistribution, right? So I agree with you there. With regards to us holding the line on the tax bill, it's the tax bill.
Yeah,
right?
The levy has gone down.
And you don't talk about Tecumseh or LaSalle or County of Essex or Toronto, Mississauga based on their tax rate. You look at the bills, right? And at the end of the day, the bills in the city of Windsor have been pretty consistent.
Okay. All right. Well, just quickly, we have our mayoral debate coming up this afternoon at 12:30. Now you've been mayor for 11 years. Before that, you were a councillor.
Yeah.
Youngest mayor, youngest councillor.
Ever elected.
82 on the inside now, but thank you.
That's right. Now, from the outside, is there a question that you would want to ask one of the candidates at today's mayoral debate? Yeah, you definitely earned it.
Yeah, the question, it's very interesting. I would ask the question because I've heard John and others talk about it, and Dave Cook, for example. The mayor is a type of mayor, that doesn't, or we need a mayor that listens to people. And I would ask the question, when you say listen to people, what does that mean? Because I'll tell you exactly what it means. My door is an open door. People can come in, talk to me, and you guys have known this.
It's true.
I've been very open. Anybody can call me, and my philosophy's been call me. I want to be able to comment because you're going to write the story anyways, right? So I've met with Dan Stamper, weeks after they finished suing us for millions of dollars. I've got no problem meeting with people. The challenge, though, is they expect you to toe their line. So they don't want a meeting with you. They don't want you to hear what they have to say. They want you to go out and basically sell their idea. So I've met with the Firefighters Association. And meeting with the Firefighters Association, I've had good meetings and good discussions with them. I've laid out what the city's interests are. And I've basically said, this is what the city's interests are. How do we meet common ground? And their response is, well, you can go and sell it. They want to use the mayor's office to go and sell what they want, right? And so my question to the mayoral candidates is, one, who are you surrounding yourself with, right? And when push comes to shove and they come knocking on the door, right, are you going to be selling their agenda? And whose agenda are you going to represent? We have firefighters' collective agreement that expires at the end of this year, right? So December 31st, 2014, right? January 1st, we're going to go into new negotiations with the fire guys, right? Are you going to be a mayor that is going to represent the interests of the taxpayers? Or are you going to be a mayor that's going to go and tell the taxpayers why this needs to be done? And there's the knock against me by the groups, right? Most recently, this whole Riverside poll, they wanted me to go out there, not to hold open consultations as to whether or not it should be built at WFCU, but to sell the community on the idea that it should be at Riverside. That's not who I am. That's not what I do. I represent the interests of the city and the interests of the residents. And sorry, special interests, or sorry, others that expect the mayor's office to be a champion of a select few. Our job is to be champion of the entire city, at the risk of alienating some that don't get what they want. So my question would be, who do you represent, and are you prepared to say no? So when the fire negotiations come up, what's going to be your position? When contracting out, here's another contract that comes up. Contracting out is going to come up. It's going to expire. I think it's got another 2 years. Are you going to be bringing garbage back?
Garbage.
Okay,
yeah,
Are you going to bring garbage back?
Yeah.
Are you going to bring parking enforcement back? When the QP contracts are done, right? Or when there is something like a border negotiation, right? Remember the border discussion? I remember they lined themselves up in the office, and they went to the media, and they went to other sources, right? And thankfully, to the Windsor Star, you guys stood by the committee. You stood with City Council in terms of making sure the facts were out there. They want you to go out there and sell to the public and say to the public, this is good, we should accept it. That's not the type of mayor you want. You want a type of mayor that's able to take in all the information, meet with as many people as possible, but at the end of the day, stand up and make their own decision. And their own decision needs to be based on the interests of the residents of the city of Windsor.
Well, unfortunately, that's probably not an answer we'd get until they're in and then we see.
The debate's only an hour long. We can't.
But the question is, who do you surround yourself with?
Right.
Who's who?
When push comes to shove,
Yeah.
whose back do you have?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's that's an important question of the council. It's like, listen, some people are going to come out and say, well, who's Francis to say he's supporting this candidate over that candidate? At least I'm being very public about it. I'm not doing it behind the scenes. You've got the Firefighters Association, not that there's anything wrong with it. You've got some councillors behind the scenes working in support of councillors and support of mayoral candidates, right? I think it's important for the public to know who they are. Because that gives you an insight in terms of...
We have city councillors working for some of the mayoral candidates?
It could be.
Incumbents?
Could be.
Could be or
Could be. I haven't confirmed it yet. Could be.
Okay, but you're on the trail?
I'm trying to find out. Because I'm sitting there saying, at least I have the spine to say publicly.
Yeah, be open,
where
for
I
sure.
be open about it, right? But we'll see.
Excellent.
Okay, anyway, Eddie, thanks very much. We got to wrap this up.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you. He's going to be back here on Thursday, going to give us some endorsements. Hopefully, Ward 10, that's a big one, but we'll see. We're not going to,
Ward 10's gonna be a big one.
but boom. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.